Hello and welcome to part 3 of the Family Violence mini video series. In the last video, we discussed 9 different forms of family violence, and it was a lot of information. Many of the examples we shared are also warning signs of family violence, and we want to bring out some of the main themes in this video. Here are some of the main themes we discussed in the previous video. In addition to including warning signs that you can observe from someone who is causing harm, we also added some warning signs that you can observe for someone who is experiencing the harm. These are things that you can identify in yourself or others that you know or are close to. Some of these include obsessively trying to please the family member, being hyper aroused or avoidant. Someone may not seem like they're being harmed because maybe they're doing well in school, but there is not one correct way to respond to abuse. People cope in different ways. Some students explain to us that they may quote unquote take the abuse because the parent says it is a sign of disrespect if they don't, or that the parent is the boss of the house so they have the right to scream and yell at their child, which definitely speaks to the signs we discussed earlier. When it comes to family members, especially parents, the line between discipline and abuse can become blurry, especially if the abuse has always been labeled as discipline by an adult. Some of the differences are listed on the screen. One thing to also try to be mindful of when determining if what you're experiencing is abuse or discipline is how you feel emotionally, but also in your physical body. Pay attention to if you clench your jaw or fist, or your shoulders are glued to your ears, or if you get a headache or stomach ache when a family member causes you harm. It is normal to feel sad or ashamed if you disappointed a family member, but if you are having extreme physical responses, this might be a sign that the stress is triggering a fight or flight or freeze response in your body. You'll see both the discipline and abuse have goals, but the goal of discipline is to be connected, to guide them in the right direction and still feel love, kindness, respect, and safety. Some students ask us about culture and how sometimes their family members may say the way that they're behaving is how everyone behaves in their culture. While there are many ways of parenting around the world, this does not mean that anything goes, as long as it's quote unquote cultural. Cultures are not homogeneous, meaning that they're not all the same, and the person who is defining culture may be benefiting from the behavior. Sometimes people who abuse children blame their behavior on a cultural background as a way of justifying the abuse. So take a second to pause the video and read this scenario. Maybe this is a scenario that has happened to you or someone you know. What do you think? Is this discipline or harm? Some of you may be surprised to find out that this is not discipline and it is harm. In this scenario, your parent did not take a moment to consider how you felt. They did not listen to you, and instead they screamed and maybe even cursed at you, which made you feel afraid. This is not a way a parent should behave, but unfortunately that is the reality for some people. At the end of this video, we will provide resources for you or someone you know if you need help. So pause the video again and read over these questions. These are some things to consider if you're still trying to figure out if what you're experiencing is abuse. Even if what you're experiencing doesn't constitute as abuse, you're still valid and deserving of being treated with love and respect. We want to make sure you have resources if you answered yes to any of the questions in the previous slide. Pause the video here and visit some of these sites for support. In the next video, we will also have more in-depth steps on how to support someone or yourself if you are experiencing family violence.